Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in for another episode. Today I want to provide for you 4 easy locations that you can fish during the winter time to generate some bites and catch some big bass while you're at it. These are locations that generally are not hard to identify and they'll produce all winter long. Today's video is brought to you by the Deep Dive app. This has had an amazing new update. As you guys know, I love the water clarity feature. As you can see right here, we're looking at Grand Lake, which just had a whole pile of rain come into it. It went from being really clear to having a lot of dirty water coming in the bottom end of it. Just an amazing feature to be able to determine where the clear water is versus the muddy water. However, they just introduced the wind effects. Now, the wind effects is really cool because we've had wind effects as part of the app in the past, but all it did is show where the wind was hitting the shoreline the most. As you can see from the dots, the orange and bright red dots, which indicate where the wind is really striking. But now the wind feature also indicates what the wave action is like on the lake itself. So some of the features you're going to get from this is determining where to get from place to place safely by avoiding the heavy rough water conditions. You'll be able to determine where you may have some of the strongest current flow and some of the places where you can fish to stay protected. Now, along with that, you still have some of my favorite features like the patterns that you've got on the lake that indicate the best baits and lures to fish with. You've also got the water inflow app, which shows you where a bunch of the rain input comes in. That can be an amazing pattern to fish throughout the year. Just a great feature to have. So many positive features anytime you're fishing or using the Deep Dive app. Just points you in the right direction to catch more fish. Whether you're a tournament angler or a local fun fisherman that's just out to catch a few fish, the Deep Dive app will help you catch more fish next time you're out on the water. So let's jump right into these locations. These are some of my favorite places to fish during the winter, and generally it's because they offer both forage and deep water access, which is something that the fish are generally looking for during the cold water period of the winter months. So one of the first locations that I love to fish are your bridges. A bridge is a great location because you've always got deep water access because that bridge is generally going to be over some form of creek channel or river channel. You've got a lot of bait fish migration going through those areas, and you've got the cover that the fish are looking for. So anytime you're talking about wintertime fishing, your bridges are going to be great locations for all species of bass. The second location, which is somewhat similar to that, is a tail race. Your dam tail races, whether they're large dams or small dams, are usually fish holding locations all winter long. Generally speaking, you've got a deep hole below that dam. You've got a lot of current. You've got a lot of eddies, which means you've got a lot of places for the fish to get out of some of those winter conditions and sit into some of those areas where you've got forage that's being brought to them without them having to expel much energy. So your dams are great places to fish. And honestly, they're great producers of almost all game fish in the area that you're living in. So do not overlook your dams during the winter time period. A third location that I truly love to fish is your first rocky area that's got deep water that's out from the mouth of either a river or a creek. So depending on the lake type that you're on, this could be anything from a channel swing bank that's got rock on it and has deep water access, and that deep water is relative to the lake you're on. It could be 8 or 10 feet of water when you've got a giant flat that's only 2 or 3 feet deep. It could be 20 feet of water if the flat is 8 to 10 feet deep. The point here is anywhere you're talking about a water influx, so you've got a creek or a river, shallow water generally that's flowing into a main lake body of water, the first deep water access that has rock. Rock is a big key there, and deep water is a big key. If you're not on a reservoir that has, say, creek channels, but you're on a lake that's been dammed up, a lot of times it's that first deep water hole right where the river enters the lake. The reason this is good is you get all of those fish that are moving out of that shallow stream or creek or river moving back down to the lake where there's deeper water, warmer water, where they're going to really spend the winter months waiting until they get the warm water period, and then they'll swim up that shallow water creek or river again. So that first deep water hole with rock can be absolutely phenomenal. Now, the last thing I want to point out is if you're fishing for largemouth, doesn't matter if you're up north or down south, if you can identify good green grass on some larger flats that have relatively deep water access nearby, those are going to be locations where you have some largemouth spending the entire winter period. Whether you're down in Florida or you're up north and you've got 2 feet of ice on the water, you'll have a lot of bass that are sticking around green weeds up on shallow flats. Just tend to be a good place where they stay. You usually have forage in the form of bluegills or panfish that are hanging around those green weeds as well. And the fish tend to just hang out in those areas. Plus, if you're talking about the winter months, which can be times of low dissolved oxygen, the plants can produce some oxygen, which I think is something also that brings the fish to the green vegetation that's still growing. Those are 4 really easy things that you can fish and identify during the winter months. Really, regardless of whether you're in a boat or fishing from shore, that will improve the number of bass that you catch during the winter. Hopefully you found this helpful. If you did, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Stay tuned, we'll have a new video coming out tomorrow.